is simple. Defeat your enemy, claim their crest.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another Pyro Gaming video. A few weeks ago, I uploaded a video showing you guys some tips and tricks to be a more effective PvE killer. In that video, I talked about things that will help you stay alive and die less, as well as get more kills when you're doing things like strikes, nightfalls, things of that nature. Now, you guys enjoyed that video so much that many of you commented on it and requested that I make the same style of video for PvP, i.e. the Crucible. Now, if you've been a subscriber to my channel for a little while, you've probably heard me rant and rave about how I'm not a Crucible fan. That being said, I do pretty good in Crucible. It's very rare that I actually go negative in a Crucible match. I'm usually at least, top 3 on every game that I play, and that was Destiny 1. I realize Destiny 2 now only has 4-player teams, and in Destiny 2 I'm usually in the top 2. But nonetheless, I know my shit. That's what I'm getting at. I used to play a lot of first-person shooters, multiplayer, Call of Duty, things like that. And the principles are all the same for all those types of games. So in this video, that's what we're going to be going over. How you can die less and get more kills in the Crucible. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that you want to do before you ever even set foot in a Crucible match is make sure that your settings for your gameplay are all exactly how you want them to be. Now, for me personally, when I'm playing in PvE, I like to have my sensitivity set on about 4 or 5. When I go into the Crucible, I will typically dial that up by 1 up to either 5 or 6, but I very rarely go as high as 6. It's usually either 4 or 5. The reason that I dial it up is because enemies in PvE do not move as fast as Guardians do in Crucible. So when I get used to using a 4, for example, in PvE, then I go into the Crucible and I'm trying to catch these guys that are strafing left to right, which they don't do in PvE all that often, then I'm at a disadvantage. So I have to up my controller sensitivity to compensate for that higher movement speed in the game. Another thing that I always do, and this is something that I do for both PvE and PvP, is I turn my colorblind settings on so that my minimap is yellow. And you guys always ask me why my minimap is yellow, how my minimap is yellow. You literally just go over to accessibility options in the Destiny 2 menu, go down to the bottom, you'll see the different colorblind options, and you just select the one that is red and green. Now, I actually am colorblind in real life. However, I've been colorblind my entire life, so I know how to tell the difference between most colors. That's not why I use the colorblind settings. I use it because when I'm playing in either PvE or PvP, I can focus on what's going on in front of me. I can focus on the gunplay. I can focus on the enemies, the ads, whatever the case may be. And whenever there is an enemy that gets on my minimap or my radar, then I can see it a lot better out of the corner of my eye. Like that's the basic gist of it. When it's red against black, it doesn't really pop all that much, but I mean, just trust me on this. As you're watching this gameplay, look at the sight on my gun and watch the enemies and tell me if whether or not out of the corner of your eye you can't see that green on the radar much better than you can the red on the radar. So that's a big deal for me, man, because now I don't have to just sit there and stare at my minimap the entire time I'm playing, because you really want to keep a close eye on that. You want to know what's going on around you. You want to know if an enemy is about to flank you. I cannot stress enough how important knowing where your enemies are on your map, where they are around you. I cannot stress at all how important that is. That is such a huge advantage, and in competitive multiplayer, you want to take advantage of as many things as you possibly can. And the last thing that I'm going to leave you guys with as far as settings, we still have more to talk about after this, but while we're talking about your settings, I personally like to play with my controller vibration off. The reason being is because when you're in a gunfight and your controller is vibrating like crazy, it will affect your sights. It will pull your sights off of your target if your controller is vibrating hard enough. Like, for example, right here, I'm getting rained down on by auto rifles. I'm shooting an auto rifle. If I had my vibration on my controller, my hands would be going absolutely crazy. I actually play with SCUF controllers, and one of the options that you can get on a SCUF controller is you can have the rumble motors completely removed from the controller, and that's what I did. And, I mean, it's just fantastic. It makes your controller lighter. It makes it to where, the vibration's completely non-issue. I mean, it's really nice. So now that you guys have your game settings all set up, you're ready to jump into a Crucible match and start trying and practicing and playing, the first thing that you need to do is select a proper loadout. Now, in my PvE video, I talked about having close, medium, and long range covered. In Crucible, you still want to try your best to accomplish that goal, although in Crucible, most of the time it's going to be close and medium range and not so much really long range. Another very important thing to keep in mind when selecting your loadout is what the current meta is. So at the time of recording this video, I'm recording this pre-Curse of Osiris. So if there's any weapon balance changes with Curse of Osiris that make these weapons that I'm about to talk about obsolete, then, like I said, I'm recording this before Curse of Osiris, so I haven't heard of them yet. But anyway, the current meta, as I'm recording this, is pretty much Mida Multi-Tool, Uriel's Gift, 3-round burst sidearms like the Last Hope, things of that nature. And they're really good. They're really solid weapons, and, you know, going back to what I was talking about a second ago, with PvP being mainly, you know, close and medium range, Uriel's Gift has insane range. The Last Hope sidearm is definitely going to be a close-up weapon, and then Mida Multi-Tool will be that medium to long-range weapon for whenever you need to get the guys that are across the map. Now, the other weapon that I run in my loadout is typically Mida, Uriel's Gift, and then the Long Walk Sniper Rifle that you get from Trials of Osiris. But honestly, any high-impact sniper rifle is actually really good in Crucible. One of my favorite things to do is when I pick up heavy, instead of trying to take the extra time to go for the headshots, unless it's just really easy to get the headshot on that person, I'd rather just body them, switch to Mida real quick, and shoot them once or twice, and I have my kill. Some other really good power weapons to use in the Crucible right now are rocket launchers, things like Blue Shift, Sins of the Past, Curtain Call, anything with cluster bombs, some form of tracking, or just really high blast radius is going to do you really well. And additionally, fusion rifles. Merciless is an absolute beast in the Crucible. It's got insane range, and it's just super fun to use. You pick up ammo for that, you're probably going to get at least 2 or 3 kills. But for me personally, I always enjoyed sniping in Destiny 1, so it just kind of carried over into Destiny 2. Snipers honestly probably aren't the best bet for power weapons in Crucible because, you know, it does require a little bit of skill and precision, and if there's an enemy up close, you're kind of screwed. But nonetheless, it's just my preference. I enjoy sniping. I've always enjoyed sniping. I always think it's really fun, and that's why I use it. So for whatever loadout you're choosing, you just need to pick out the one that not only is enjoyable for you to use, but at the same time, you can be effective with. It suits your playstyle. That's what you really need to go for. You need to find that loadout that is kind of meta. You know, you don't want to be at a disadvantage because you're using, you know, a hand cannon and everybody else is using the Mida Uriel's Gift or Mida Last Hope. You know, you're not going to win a lot of battles with a hand cannon unless you're just insanely good with a hand cannon, which in that case, by all means, use that hand cannon. But you want to find that balance between the weapons that you're almost forced to use and the weapons that you enjoy using. And for me, like I said, that's typically Mida and Uriel's Gift or Mida and Last Hope. That's typically what I run. So once you've got your loadout selected, the next thing that you want to do is really start working on landing your precision shots. In the Crucible, if 2 people are going up against each other with a Uriel's Gift, one of them is shooting the enemy in the chest and the other one is shooting them in the head, the one that's getting shot in the head is going to die about twice as quick as the one that's getting shot in the chest. Much like PvE, you know, your headshots are insanely important. You want to crit as many people as you can, as many enemies as you can, as many bullets as you can. You want them to show up as yellow instead of white, and that's a really big deal, man. So kind of what I was saying in PvE was, you know, just kind of make it muscle memory. What you want to do is you want to take that extra, you know, half a second or second or whatever it is to really line up those headshots, and, you know, just it'll be a learning curve. You know, you get used to doing it over and over and over. You take a little bit more time to do it, and the more you do it, the more effective you're going to be at it, and before you know it, it's muscle memory, and you're automatically just aiming at everything's head as soon as they go around the corner. And once you're able to do that, you're going to be a much more effective killer. And I do want to add something to that. While you're practicing getting your headshots, you really want to do it while strafing, you know, left to right, forward and back. You don't want to be a setting target. When you get into a gunfight, whether it be in PvE or PvP, you don't want to just stand perfectly still while you're shooting at an enemy and they're shooting back at you. You want to be moving side to side. You want to have as much movement as possible. If you watched the first clip of this video, the first gameplay that I showed, I was jumping around, running around, sprinting everywhere. You know, I was all over the place. And that's one of my play styles. This one I'm kind of, you know, going a little bit slower. I'm, you know, being a little bit more reserved. I'm trying to be a little bit more sneaky, I guess you would say. And, you know, sometimes I do the aggressive play style, sometimes I do the defensive play style. But either way, when I do those, I know how to make the changes. And regardless of which playstyle I feel like doing at the time, I'm still going to stick to my fundamentals. I'm still going to watch my radar. I'm still going to see where my teammates are. I'm still going to see if it's control, which flag they have, which ones they're taking. Wherever I see one of my teammates' skulls pop up showing that they just got killed, I know that there's an enemy close by to where that teammate just died. So these are all things that you want to make a mental note of and pay attention to as you're playing. Another thing that I do is every time I play Crucible or any form of competitive PvP, I wear my headset that plays the game audio like just right over my ears, and I always listen to the sounds. I listen to gunfire, I listen to footsteps, I listen to what Shax is saying, I listen to what my enemies are saying. I listen to everything. I try to pay attention to as much as I can so that my guard is always up. I try to keep my senses as sharp as I can when I'm playing so that I don't get distracted, get caught off guard, and, get popped from somebody that ran up behind me with a shotgun, or get popped from, a sniper across the map because I wasn't paying attention. And I want to point out that even the best PvP players in the world still have stuff like that happen to them. It's just the nature of the game when you're playing competitive multiplayer. There's so many variables going on. There's so many things that could go differently. There's so many things that you could do wrong, somebody else can do wrong. I mean, it's the nature of the game. Nobody's going to be perfect all the time. If everybody was perfect all the time, there would be people out there with a KD of like 1,000 because they've killed 1,000 enemies and have not died a single time. That doesn't exist. Like, there's a reason that a good KD in Destiny 2 is considered like 1.5 and up. And, I mean, that's 1.5 kills for every death. That's only 0.5 kills more than the amount of times that you're dying. If you have a 1.5 KD, you're considered a top-tier player. So if you're out there and you're getting killed a lot, you keep having these stupid things happen to you, just shrug it off, man. Like, don't let it get to you. Don't get all ragey about it. Don't get all mad about it. Don't break your controllers and throw them and all that stuff. Just remember it's a game, and the more frustrated that you get at that game, the poorer you're going to be at it. Like, the worse you're going to be, the more you get ragey and, get distracted. So just keep your calm. Remember, it's just a game. It doesn't matter. I just got killed by that guy. I feel like my shot should have landed, but they didn't. No big deal. I'm going to move on with my life. Now, before I let you guys go, I'm going to touch on a couple of really quick topics. One of them is going to be know your surroundings. You want to know your way around the maps. You want to know where the spawns are, where the control zones are, where the bombs spawn, where the enemies spawn, where you spawn, where your team spawns. All these things are, again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, these are things that are going to give you a competitive advantage. Now, this is going to be a lot easier to do once private matches are released sometime next year. We don't know exactly when that's going to be, but we just know it's going to be next year. But whenever private matches do come out, you'll be able to just, spawn into a random Crucible map and just walk around by yourself, nice and calm, not stressful, memorize the map, know where everything is, find your line of sights. It's going to give you a tremendous advantage. Another thing that you should know, which I forgot to mention when I'm speaking about the radar and the minimap a little bit ago, is if you're in Crucible and you are crouched down, you are not constantly on the minimap. You are flashing on the minimap every couple of seconds, so you do have a period where you are not showing up at all on the enemy's map, and that is a very good advantage to have. And my final two pieces of advice for you guys: number one, pick your exotic armor accordingly. Find something that's going to suit your playstyles, find something that's actually going to give you some kind of benefit. So just a couple of examples, for the Hunter, I always use Knucklehead Radar. Having your minimap at all times when you're aiming down sights with all of your weapons is a really big advantage. If I'm on my Titan and I'm running Uriel's Gift, I will typically put on Actium War Rig because it constantly refills my magazine. So just, things like that are good things to keep in mind when selecting your class of armor and your loadouts and all that stuff. Find something that works well with your playstyle. And my final piece of advice for this video is take it slow, man. Whether you're just starting out in Crucible or you've been playing for a while and you just can't figure it out, just take your time, man. Go slow, be patient, take your time. Like I said, line up those shots. Don't try to go out there and be like Triple Wreck, jumping all over the map, like a crazy person and landing those, like 360 no-scope sniper shots and all that stuff. That's a higher skill. That's a really high skill level. So if you're watching a video to improve in Crucible, then chances are you're probably not at that skill level, and that's fine. Everybody has to start somewhere, but like I said, start slow. Put the training wheels on the bicycle, go for a little leisurely ride, and eventually, once you have all the fundamentals down and things become muscle memory, that's when you can go out there and be that crazy asshole like Triple Wreck, jumping around all over the place, landing those crispy snipes. But that's going to bring this video to an end, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it helpful. If you did, click like. If you're new to the channel, click subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, I fucking love you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.